Hello everyone, I'm happy to see you on my channel. And in this video, I will show you how to crochet these adorable baby booties. I have 3 sizes here. This first size is for 0 to 3 months, with a foot length of 8 centimeters. I already have a separate dedicated video for this size, which you can find in the link in the description below. In this video, I will show you how to crochet the other 2 sizes. These booties have a foot length of 10 centimeters, which is approximately for a baby up to 6 months old. And these booties have a foot length of 12 centimeters, which is for a baby approximately up to 1 year old. I already have a pair of the smallest booties, but only one of this larger size. So in this video, we will be crocheting the second booty to complete this pair. Also, if you've fallen in love with these little baby socks and you want to ask me, do you have a masterclass for adults? The exact same kind of socks? The answer is yes, I do. The masterclass is available. Here are the adult socks made with a proper sock yarn. It's about 420 meters per 100 grams and contains nylon, so it's very durable and won't wear through. The full masterclass for these adult socks is available exclusively for my channel members. It includes both the video tutorial and a written PDF pattern with charts. The sizes in my description range from a European 36 to 42, which is roughly the size range you can make with a single skein of this sock yarn. But this is such a simple design that I also explain how to modify it. So if you have a larger foot size or you need to make it smaller, you can easily do it yourself. I explain everything in the masterclass. You only need to change 3 key measurements to get any other size. It's very easy, very simple. So I can confidently say that this pattern allows you to make these socks for any foot size. So I hope you'll subscribe. You will see 2 sets of numbers on the screen in the text description in the top left corner. The number written without parentheses is for the 0 to 6 months size, which corresponds to a 10 centimeter foot length. The number in parentheses is for the 12 centimeter size. In this video, I will be following the numbers in the parentheses. If you need the smaller size, you will follow the numbers that are not in parentheses. If you are crocheting the same size as me, you will follow the numbers in the parentheses. All right. Let's go over the materials you'll need for these booties. For the yarn, I'm using Pekhorka Detsky Kapriz Teply. This is what the label looks like. It's a blend of 50% wool and 50% fiber. Each 50-gram skein has 125 meters of yarn, and 1 skein is enough to make 2 individual booties. You'll also need a 5mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle or yarn needle for seaming the booty together, and finally, a small piece of scrap yarn in a contrasting color. We'll use this for the foundation chain to make seaming much easier later on. All right, so I'm gonna grab my hook and my contrasting scrap yarn, and we're going to start by making a chain of 46. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
The chain is made. I have 46 chain stitches here. This is going to be the longest part of the booty. So what I mean is, it's this part of the booty right here. You'll notice that the starting chain is always longer than the actual crocheted fabric. So when I start crocheting, see, you can even tell that the chain is about 5 centimeters longer than the finished piece. That's because the project naturally cinches up a bit as you work, which is why I always make the foundation chain a little longer to compensate. Next, I'm switching over to my main color yarn to begin the project. All right, for row 1, I'll start with a chain 1. Now, I'm going to turn my foundation chain over slightly like this. On the back of the chain, you'll see that each stitch has this little horizontal bar. This is often called the back bump. Look, right here. See it? Every single chain has one. So, turning the chain, I'm going to insert my hook into the back bump of the second chain from the hook. The reason we do this is so that at the end, we can remove this contrasting scrap yarn in one easy pull. Now I'll make a slip stitch. That's 1, into the next back bump for 2, into the next for 3, and 4. I'm going to continue making one slip stitch in each back bump all the way to the end of the row. You will have 46 slip stitches for row 1.
45, and 46 right into the last stitch. And that completes the first row. Row 2. Each row is going to start with a turning chain. So chain 1 and turn your work. For the second row and all the following rows, I will be crocheting into the back loop only. So, to be clear, only the first row was worked into the back bumps of the chain. All the other rows will be worked into the back loop only. It's this specific technique, crocheting in the back loop, that creates this lovely, stretchy ribbed effect. All right, so inserting my hook into the second stitch from the hook, we don't count the turning chain. I'll go into that back loop, grab the working yarn, and make a slip stitch. That's 1. Into the next stitch, 2, into the next one, 3, and I'll keep working like this all the way to the end of the row. For row 2, you will again have a total of 46 slip stitches. Here are the last few stitches in the second row. That's 45, and the last stitch, 46. And with that, row 2 is complete. Now for row 3, it's going to be exactly the same. Start with a chain 1 for your turning chain and turn your work. Then, working into the second stitch from the hook, you'll make your slip stitches in the back loop only. You're going to continue making rows of 46 slip stitches this way all the way through row 5. So go ahead and work until you've completed row 5, and I'll meet you back here to show you how to do row 6. And here's a quick but important tip. For projects like this, you should count your stitches at the end of every row. This is to make sure you haven't made a mistake, like accidentally adding an extra stitch or losing one. So as I crochet, I personally recount my stitches every single row. As a reminder, the stitch count for each row will be displayed on the screen in the top corner. All right, I have my first 5 rows completed, so now we're moving on to row 6. This is the first row where we'll begin the shaping that forms this wedge section. It's this part right here on the finished booty. This row is going to be shorter than our previous rows by 2 stitches. So, for row 6, you'll start with a chain 1 and turn your work. Again, starting in the second stitch from the hook, you are going to work 44 slip stitches in the back loop only. What this means is that you will not work all the way to the end of the row. You're going to leave the last 2 stitches unworked. Row 6 is now complete. Next is row 7, and this is where we'll start shaping the first wedge for the instep and heel. This section right here. Preliminarily, I need to calculate the peak of the heel. Look, I already have everything calculated. For my size, I'm placing a stitch marker in the 22nd stitch from the edge, or the 20th stitch if you're counting from where we just finished. Let me count. Here it is, the 22nd stitch. I'm placing my marker right here. This will be the center point of the heel. So how did I find this spot? I take my measuring tape. The final foot length for this booty needs to be 12 centimeters. So I measure the flat piece, but I stop about 1 centimeter short, at 11 centimeters, and I place my marker on that stitch. This is because the short rows we're about to make for the heel shaping will add that extra centimeter. So as you can see on the finished booty, the final length is 12 centimeters. That's why I measure to 11 centimeters on the flat piece, which for me is the 22nd stitch. That's what I'll be working towards. Okay, row 7. This is a very complex and long row. So for row 7, we're going to work all the way to this marker. Then we will create the entire heel section and finish by working along the other side. Let's begin row 7. As always, chain 1 and turn your work. Starting in the second stitch from the hook, I'm going to work slip stitches in the back loop only. I'll make 20 slip stitches to bring me right up to the marker. I've worked up to the marker. I'll just move the marker out of the way, and now I'll start working the heel itself. First, I need to anchor this row to the main body. To do this, I'll make 2 slip stitches into the next 2 available stitches of the previous, longer row. That's 1 and 2. Now, at this point, I do not make a turning chain. I just turn my work immediately. Now I count from the hook, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to insert my hook into the back loop of the third stitch from the hook, skipping the 2 anchoring stitches we just made. I did not chain 1 before this turn. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the width of our heel. We've just crocheted this part right here. Okay, now for the return trip. At the end of this row, you do make a chain 1. This is the key thing to remember. On the side where you anchor to the main body, you don't chain 1 before turning. On this outer side of the heel, you do chain 1. So I've made my chain 1 and turned. Starting in the second stitch from the hook, I'll work 8 slip stitches back in the back loop only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, I'm inserting my hook through the edge of the current row and then into the back loop of the stitch on the row below. That's our first slip stitch, 1, and into the next spot for the second slip stitch, 2. Again, no turning chain. Skip those 2 stitches and insert your hook into the third stitch from the hook in the back loop. Now I work back across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice that I stopped 2 stitches short of the previous row's edge. Now chain 1 and turn. Work 6 slip stitches back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, I'm inserting my hook through the edge of this row and then into the back loop of the stitch on the main body row below. Now I'll make 2 slip stitches. That's 1, and into the next stitch, 2. Turn your work. Do not make a turning chain. Insert your hook into the back loop of the third stitch from the hook and make 4 slip stitches. Chain 1 and turn. Now work 4 slip stitches back in the other direction, in the back loop only. Okay, let's anchor it one more time. I'm inserting my hook through the edge loop of this row and then into the main body to make the first slip stitch and a second slip stitch into the next stitch. Now turn your work and again, do not make a turning chain. Skip the first 2 stitches and go right into the third stitch from the hook in the back loop only. And now we just have 2 slip stitches to make. Chain 1 and turn your work. And to finish this section, work 2 slip stitches back in the other direction, in the back loop only. And with that, the first heel wedge is complete. Now I'm going to move on to crocheting the cuff. To do that, I'll make one final connection to the main body and then continue working slip stitches along this edge. I'm going to work a total of 16 slip stitches for the cuff. 16. And so, for the cuff section, I'm crocheting 16 slip stitches. This is a really important number to remember, or even better, write it down. You're going to need it when we shape the other side of the booty, and of course, when you make the matching one. And believe it or not, all of that was just row 7. It's finally finished. Now let's move on to row 8. Start with a chain 1 and turn your work. Then, beginning in the second stitch from the hook, work your slip stitches. The purpose of row 8 is to join all of those little steps we created during the heel shaping into one continuous smooth row. You are going to stop working 2 stitches before you reach the very end of that last step. So go ahead and crochet up to that point, and I'll meet you back here to show you exactly how to work across those steps and join them together. I have crocheted 16 stitches, followed by 17 and 18. I am now at the first step. I will insert my hook through the edge loop and then into the back loop of the stitch on the row below to make stitch 19, and then into the next stitch for 20. I will repeat this process for each step, working 2 stitches to join it. Continue working across the steps. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. This gives me a total of 34 slip stitches for row 8. I have left the final 2 stitches of the last step unworked. That was row 8. For row 9, chain 1 and turn. Insert your hook into the second stitch from the hook and work 34 slip stitches in the back loop only. Next up is row 10, and this is going to be a full-length row. That means we're going to work all the way across and join all of those steps we left on the toe section. So for row 10, start with a chain 1 and turn your work. Beginning in the second stitch from the hook, you'll work your slip stitches in the back loop only. I'm going to crochet across until I get to those steps, and I'll meet you there to show you how to join them all together. 33, 34, and now I've reached that first step. We're going to join this exactly the same way we did on the heel. I'll insert my hook through the edge loop and then into the back loop of the stitch on the row below to make a slip stitch. That's 35, and into the next stitch for 36. Now for the last step, again, through the edge loop and into the back loop for 37, and into the very last stitch for 38. And with that, row 10 is complete. Now for row 11. Chain 1 and turn your work. Starting in the second stitch from the hook, you're going to work 38 slip stitches in the back loop only all the way across. All right, I've just finished row 11, and now we're moving on to row 12. And take a look here. We're about to start the second half of the toe shaping. See, we've finished the first half, and now we're going to create the second half, which will be a mirror image of the first. It's worked symmetrically, just in the opposite direction. This means that row 12 will be our shortest row in this section. For this row, you are going to leave the last 4 stitches unworked. So, for row 12, start with a chain 1 and turn your work. As always, starting in the second stitch from the hook, you'll begin working your slip stitches in the back loop only. For row 12, you will have a total of 34 slip stitches. Row 12 is complete. with the final 4 stitches left unworked. Row 13, chain 1 and turn. Work 1 slip stitch in the back loop of each of the 34 stitches from the previous row. Row 13 is complete. Now for row 14. This row will be 2 stitches longer than the previous row. Chain 1 and turn. You will work a total of 36 slip stitches in the back loop only. First, work across the stitches of the previous row. Then, you will work 2 more stitches into the unworked stitches of the row below, joining them as we did before. 34. To join, insert the hook through the edge loop and into the back loop of the next available stitch for stitch 35. Work 1 more slip stitch in the next stitch for 36. Row 14 is complete with 36 stitches. Row 15, chain 1, turn. Work 36 slip stitches in the back loop only across. For row 15, you'll have a total of 36 stitches. I finished row 15, and now we're on to row 16. This row is going to be another 2 stitches longer than the last one, which means we'll be working all the way to the very edge of the toe section. So start with a chain 1 and turn your work. As usual, beginning in the 2nd stitch from the hook, you'll start working your slip stitches in the back loop only. For row 16, you will have a total of 38 slip stitches. 35, 36, and now I'm at that final step. I'll join it the same way as before. I'll insert my hook through the edge loop and then into the row below. That's 37 and 38. And that was row 16. Next will be row 17. From row 17 through row 23, we will begin this section here. Here is the toe, and now the rows are full. They are not short rows. That means from row 17 to row 23 inclusive, I will crochet full rows of 38 stitches each, back and forth, back and forth. In this way, I will form 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs of full-length rows. Now, why 38 stitches? My foundation chain was 46 stitches. That was the longest part of the booty. Then, here, in the heel wedge, remember we used 8 stitches for the shaping? I crocheted the heel wedge using those 8 stitches to make the short rows. So I decreased the initial stitch count by 8 stitches. 46 minus 8, I get 38. There it is. That's the number that we are using for the top of the foot, for this part right here. So go ahead and crochet up to and including row 23. We will meet back here for row 24, and I will show you what to do next. All right, I finished 23 rows, so now we're on to row 24. In this row, I'm going to start the second shaping section. So we finished the first part, and now we're beginning the second. Row 24 is going to be 2 stitches shorter than row 23. Chain 1 to turn, and turn your work. Just like before, we're going to work into the 2nd stitch from the hook. I'll start this row by making slip stitches in the back loop only. I'll be making 36 slip stitches for row 24. I'm not going all the way to the end. I'm going to leave the last 2 stitches of the row unworked. Okay, I've finished row 24, so let's move on to row 25. Chain 1 and turn your work. Again, we're going to start in the 2nd stitch from the hook. I'll insert my hook into the back loop only and start crocheting row 25. This entire row will be 36 slip stitches, all worked in the back loop only. Row 25 is done, so let's get started on row 26. Chain 1 and turn your work. Once again, I'm going to start in the 2nd stitch from the hook, working into the back loop only, and begin making my slip stitches. For row 26, I'm going to make 34 slip stitches. This means I'm stopping short again, leaving 2 more stitches unworked at the end of the row, right before the edge of that last step we made. Row 26 is done, and now for row 27. Chain 1 and turn. Again, start in the second stitch from the hook, working into the back loop only. I'll begin row 27, and for this row, I'm going to make 34 slip stitches. Row 27 is done. Now for row 28, which will be a full row that connects all of these steps back together. It will have a total of 38 stitches. So chain 1 and turn. Start in the second stitch from the hook and begin making slip stitches. When you reach the first step, you're going to connect the rows just like we did in the first section. I'm approaching the first step in row 28. Here it is. To join it, I'm going to insert my hook first through the bar on the side of the row and then into the back loop of the stitch on the row below and make a slip stitch. Then I'll make a second slip stitch into the next available spot. I'll do that again for the next step. One slip stitch to connect and a second one right after. And with that, row 28 is finished. Now for row 29. Chain 1 and turn. This is another full row. Starting in the second stitch from the hook, I'll begin making slip stitches in the back loop only. For row 29, there will be 38 slip stitches all the way across. Next up is row 30. This is going to be another short row, and it will be the shortest one in this new shaping section. For row 30, I'm going to make 34 slip stitches. I'll start the same way, chain 1, turn, and then work 34 slip stitches in the back loop only. This means I'll be leaving the last 4 stitches at the end of the row unworked. I've finished row 30. You can see here I've left those 4 stitches unworked. Now let's move on to row 31. Chain 1 and turn. Once again, starting in the second stitch from the hook, I'll begin making slip stitches in the back loop only. For row 31, there will be 34 slip stitches. Row 31 is done, and now we're on to row 32. Chain 1, turn, and here, remember, is where we begin the second heel shaping. It's going to be exactly the same as the first one, just a mirror image of it. Remember how we set aside 16 stitches for the cuff? I asked you to remember that number. So right now, we're going to work those 16 stitches for the cuff, and then we'll move on to the second part of the shaping. Okay, I'm starting like always. I've done my chain 1 and turn. I'll insert my hook into the second stitch from the hook in the back loop only and work 16 slip stitches for the cuff. 15 and 16. All right, the cuff section is done, and now the gusset shaping begins. Look, if you remember, for the first gusset, we started with 8 stitches and gradually decreased down to 2. Here, we're doing the opposite. We'll start with 2 stitches and gradually increase until we get to 8. So I'll make 2 more slip stitches. This is the start of the gusset for the heel. 1, 2. Now, chain 1 and turn. Starting in the second stitch from the hook, I'll work those 2 slip stitches again. 1, 2. Again, chain 1 and turn. This time, we're increasing to 4 slip stitches. Again, starting in the second stitch from the hook, in the back loop only, I'll work 1, 2. Now I've reached the steps on the side. I'll make the connection to join them. I insert my hook into the side bar, then into the row below. That's 3. And 1 more makes 4. There, I've made 4 slip stitches. Chain 1, turn. And now I'll work 4 slip stitches back across. Remember, in this part of the gusset, I always start with a chain 1 and work into the second stitch from the hook. This is a bit different from how we did the first gusset. Okay, chain 1, turn. Now we're increasing to 6 stitches. Into the second stitch from the hook, I'll work 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I connect to the next step. Insert into the side bar and the row below. That's 5 and 6. Chain 1, turn, and work 6 stitches back across. Starting in the second stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Again, chain 1, turn, into the second stitch from the hook, and now we're working up to 8 slip stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've worked 6. Now I connect the last step here into the sidebar, into the row below. That's 7. And one more stitch makes 8. Chain 1, turn, and work those 8 slip stitches back, starting as always in the second stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Chain 1, turn, and now to finish this whole section, I'm going to work all the way across. I'll work down the gusset, make a connection here, continue across, make another connection, and I'll end up working 2 more stitches than that last step. Let's count the stitches. I've chained 1 and turned into the second stitch from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I connect to the first step. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and now the final connection to the next step. 19 and 20. And that finishes row 32. So we've worked all the way from this edge, created the entire gusset incline, and ended up over here, leaving the last 2 stitches before the toe unworked.
And now for row 33. Let me show you the path it will take. It's going to go from here across this straight part of the shaping and then connect over to this side. You can see that the peak of my heel is right here at the 20th stitch. So there are 20 stitches between these 2 points, plus the 2 stitches I left unworked earlier. That makes a total of 22 stitches. That's the exact same number where I had you place a marker at the very beginning. This is how you can check your work. If these 2 numbers match, you've done everything correctly. There are 2 p-values in the heel that need to line up: the 16 stitches for the cuff and this number for the heel peak. For me, it was 22 at the start, and it's 22 now. Okay, let's begin row 33. Chain 1 and turn. First, I'm going to work 20 slip stitches to get to the peak of the heel. I'll start, as always, in the second stitch from the hook, working in the back loop only.
19 and 20. And that brings me right to the peak of the heel. Now I'm going to work along this side. Watch how I do this. I'm going to insert my hook under these 2 strands. I'll grab the working yarn, that's 21. Next, I'll work into the space between the rows, 22. Again, into the 2 strands of the next row end, 1 and 2, that's 23. Into the space between rows, 24. Again, into the 2 strands, 25. Into the space, 26. Into the 2 strands, 27. And one last one here makes 28.
Now, I'll move on to crocheting the cuff section. There are 16 stitches here. I'll continue working in the back loop only. 29, 30, 31, 43, and 44. So at the end of row 33, I have 44 stitches, and I still have these 2 stitches left over here. They'll be worked in the next row, so they are unworked for now. This brings our total potential stitch count to 46, and this is another key number to check your work. This is the exact number of chains I started with at the very beginning. I'm returning to this number because later, when I seam the sock into a tube, these 2 numbers have to match so that it isn't twisted or uneven. If they match, you've done everything correctly. If not, there is a mistake somewhere. Okay, on to row 34. Chain 1 and turn. Starting in the 2nd stitch from the hook, in the back loop only, I'll begin making my slip stitches. For row 34, I'm going to have a total of 46 slip stitches. This means I will work all the way to that last step, make the connection there, and then work the final 2 stitches from the row below. Okay, I'm coming up to the final step now. I'm going to make the connection by inserting my hook into the sidebar and then into the row below. That's stitch 45. And one more in the next spot makes 46. And look, with that, row 34 is finished. We only have 2 rows left to go. Row 35 and then row 36 coming back. It's going to be the exact same for both rows. For row 35, you'll chain 1, turn, and make 46 slip stitches in the back loop only. For row 36, you'll chain 1, turn, and make another 46 slip stitches in the back loop only. Go ahead and finish these last 2 rows on your own. I'll meet you back here when you're done, and I'll show you what to do next and how to seam this sock together. All right, I finished row 36. Now I'm going to leave a tail. About 30 centimeters or 12 inches is good, and cut the yarn. We'll need this tail to seam the sock together. Now, watch carefully. I'm going to take the entire 36th row and unravel it. Why am I doing this? I'm about to seam this sock. And to measure the exact length of yarn needed for the seam, you have to work 1 row and then unravel it. This is because the seam I'm about to show you is my own invention. I specifically designed this method to create a perfectly invisible seam on fabric made with these slip stitches. The seam runs right here. You won't find it anywhere else, not online, not in any book, except on my channel. I developed it, I created it, and in every video I recommend using only this method. It's the only one that gives a perfect join for this type of fabric. The other methods suggested in books or magazines, especially those using a crochet hook, are always noticeable and don't look good. So let's unravel row 36 completely. I've even unraveled the turning chain. Now, I'll take a wool needle and thread this yarn tail through it. Next, let's position the piece for seaming. I'm placing the starting chain with the contrast yarn at the bottom, and the open loop is in the top right corner. To secure this open loop, I'll simply pass the needle through it and pull the yarn all the way through. Now I'll fold the work together to begin seaming. Look closely. The contrast yarn is our guide. It shows the exact path the yarn takes in the original stitches. I am going to replicate those movements with my needle. You can see here how the purple contrast yarn is wrapping around 2 yellow strands of yarn. I'm going to insert my needle following that same path under those 2 strands and pull it through. Pull it snug. Now this next part is very important for a perfectly seamless edge. Many people miss this step. I insert my needle into the turning chain from the previous row. I'll just go right in like this and pull it snug again. Next, I'll move to the following stitch. I insert my needle into it, and then I bring the needle back through the loop we just formed on the edge. Again, pull it snug. you need to maintain the same tension that you were crocheting with so the seam just melts into the fabric. Let's do that again. I'll spread the foundation row open and look for the 2 strands that the purple yarn is catching. I'll go under them with my needle and pull through. Then, back to the live edge. I go into the loop, then back into the edge stitch where the yarn is coming out from. Pull snug. Now, into the next edge stitch, and then through the loop we just created. Pull snug. Again, spread the foundation chain. Find the 2 strands that the contrast yarn is holding, pass the needle under them, and pull through. Again, into the loop on the edge, pull snug, and into the next edge stitch and through the newly created loop. Pull snug. I'll do it one more time. Find the 2 strands wrapped by the purple yarn, insert the needle under them and pull through, then into the edge loop, pull snug, and into the next edge stitch and the newly created loop. I'll do it one more time. Find the 2 strands wrapped by the purple yarn, insert the needle under them and pull through, then into the edge loop, pull snug, and into the next edge stitch and the newly created loop. You see? The seam has blended in completely with the fabric on this side, and on the other side, it melts in just the same. Once I remove the contrast yarn, it will be perfectly invisible. Okay, once more. Spread the stitches, find the 2 strands held by the contrast yarn, pull through, into the edge loop, pull snug, into the next edge stitch and the next loop. I hope this technique is clear. I'm going to continue seaming this way, stitch for stitch, all the way to the end. I'm seaming the last few stitches now. Again, I'm picking up the 2 strands that are held by the contrast yarn. Then I bring the needle through the loop on the edge, pull it snug, and then into the next edge stitch and through the loop we just created. I pull that snug too. Again, I pick up the 2 strands from the foundation row, pull the yarn through, into the edge loop, into the next edge stitch, and through the new loop. One more time. Here are the 2 strands held by the contrast yarn, then into the edge loop, into the next edge stitch, and through the loop we just formed. And for the very last stitch, I'll pick up these final 2 strands here. Into the last edge loop, and with that, the seaming is finished. My 2 yarn tails, the beginning tail and the end tail, are now meeting at the same point. I'm just going to tie them together in a secure knot. 1, and a second one for good measure, 2. All done. Now we need to remove the contrast yarn. It comes out incredibly easily, in one single motion. This is because of the special way we worked the very first row. You just have to find the start of the row. I'll open it up here. See? And now I just pull on the contrast yarn. And watch, it just slides right out. All gone. Now let's take a look at this seam. Here it is. This is one side. And here's the other side. You can't see anything there either. This is a specially designed seam made specifically for this slip stitch fabric. It blends in perfectly, one-to-one, on both the right side and the wrong side. All that's left is to close up the toe. I'll fold it like this. You can see my yarn tail is nice and long. I'll use this same tail to sew this opening shut. How do I do it? I line up the stitches so they are directly opposite each other. Let me just tighten this up a bit. It got a little loose. Okay, I've folded it like this, and now I'll start sewing. I'll go through a couple of strands on one side and then the other side. Again, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I've sewn about halfway across, so I'll give it a little pull to cinch it closed. Now I'm going to go back in the other direction, working through the same points to reinforce it. I need to close the second half. Okay, here was the join. I'll carefully pick up the stitches here. On one side, then the other. I'll pick up 2 strands again. And work my way back to the center. Once I'm back, I'll simply tie the yarn ends in a knot again. There are only 2 tails to weave in for this whole project. And look, here's how I hide the tails. I weave them along one of these columns of stitches, like this. I use the needle to wrap the yarn around the back of the stitches and hide the tail inside the fabric. Then I'll snip the end. I'll do the exact same thing with the second tail. And with that, my socks are all finished.
And here is the finished sock. This is the wrong side. You can see where I wove in the tail. And now I'll turn it right side out. Oh, and I just need to remove the stitch marker. You can see the difference. This sock here is one I've already steam blocked, while this one is fresh off the hook. It's still a little stiff right now. After I block this one too, it will be soft and ready to wear.
I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for your likes and for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching and bye-bye.